An explosion on the Russian railway, Swedish fighter jets for Ukraine, and pre-trial detention for the scandalous director Belus. He was taken there straight from the courtroom. This and more. Right now on TSN. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the broadcast, and leave your comments. And here are a few more important topics for Wednesday, October 22nd, which began with new Russian attacks. They killed an infant. They killed pensioners and nearly killed children in a kindergarten. New Russian terrorist attacks across the country. What is known about the victims and where people have been left without electricity in their homes? Is Budapest being cancelled? Trump took 2 days to think it over.
I don't want a pointless meeting.
How did the meeting between the US president and the Russian dictator end up in limbo? And why is the NATO Secretary General rushing to Washington? Little ones that can strike by water, land, and air, and even hit the Crimean Bridge.
An intelligent battle management system.
Sea baby maritime drones have become even more dangerous for the enemy. And how have they already changed the course of the war? As of now, there are 2 dead and 30 wounded in Kyiv, including 5 children. All night and morning, Russia attacked the capital with ballistic missiles and shaheds. Fires and destruction have been reported in 4 districts. The left bank of the city suffered the most. In the Darnitsky district, 2 apartment buildings were on fire. In the Dnipro district, a residential building was hit. There, 2 people were killed. A medical facility was also damaged. Damage to facades and fires were recorded in the Desnyansky district. And in Petersburg as well. After the morning shelling of Kyiv, emergency workers rescued about 50 people. Unfortunately, there are fatalities. 2 residents of the capital were killed by the Russians. They were a married couple. At the time of the attack, the man and woman were at home. Their apartment in the Dnipro district was completely burned out. Irina Kondrachuk was working at the scene of the tragedy in the first hours after the strike.
The man was 69 years old, his wife was 67. The couple died as a result of a direct hit by a Russian Shahed drone, as reported to us by the Dnipro district administration. It is known that they had a daughter and 2 grandchildren who loved spending the night at their grandparents' place. But fortunately, on that night, there were no children in the apartment that was completely burned out. Neighbors shared with us the horror that those who remained in the building had to endure.
There were constant explosions overhead. We didn't even know that something had hit the building. Not until we saw it. Well, like I said, it was literally a matter of seconds. As soon as the explosion happened, we jumped up and ran into the kitchen, and there was already smoke. You couldn't see the window, everything was completely filled with smoke.
A piece of enemy shrapnel is lying right in front of the entrance to this building. As a result, the residents who were evacuated at dawn still can't return to their homes because forensic experts and bomb disposal technicians are working at the scene. Tetiana Kornienko is a resident of the 5th floor. Her apartment is directly below the one that took the brunt of the impact. And today, her family is celebrating their 2nd birthday because they managed to evacuate in time.
We were at home with the children. The kids had been in the hallway since the night when the ballistic attack happened. We heard, I don't know, a blast, and there were a lot of sparks. All the glass was shattered, and we literally, I don't know, in about 3 or 4 minutes, rushed downstairs. We saw that the apartment above us on the 6th floor was on fire, and we were right below them on the 5th. What about the apartment? Well, honestly, everything is flooded. There are no windows.
In the Sakivsky Dniprovsky district, strikes were recorded at 7 locations. Not only apartment buildings were affected, but also a medical facility and social institutions. Mostly the windows were damaged. Anyone in need can apply for a one-time assistance from the city and receive 10,000 hryvnias. You can do this at the nearest administrative service center, Kanap.
A very large number of windows were shattered. Social service workers are on site. People whose windows were shattered can receive compensation on the spot and submit applications for 10,000 hryvnias.
In this apartment building, 6 apartments were damaged. At least 28 people have already sought help, and the rest are waiting until they can return home. Irina Kondrachuk, Alexander Shayan, TSN 1+1.
In Kyiv, 5 children were injured during the combined attack. 4 of them were hospitalized. The children are between 2 and 17 years old. They have shrapnel wounds to the head and face. Doctors remind parents of the importance of following at least the two-wall rule if it is not possible to get to a shelter. One girl was admitted to the hospital unconscious due to severe stress. She is receiving help from psychologists. The rest of the children have undergone surgery. These are minimally invasive procedures to remove glass fragments. The wounds have been treated. The children are in satisfactory condition. A neurosurgeon from Kyiv Clinical Children's Hospital No. 1 told TSN.
We performed a CT scan and found no glass fragments under the skin. They only superficially touched the skin and then flew off. There were many cuts, but they were minor in the children. The children were examined by our specialists, neurosurgeons, general surgeons, traumatologists, and also maxillofacial surgeons.
The number of people injured in the Russian shelling in Kharkiv has increased. As of the evening, it is known that there are 9 wounded and 1 dead municipal worker who was cleaning the street during the attack. During the day, the Russians launched 3 attack drones at Kharkiv, one of which hit a private kindergarten. The teachers managed to get the children down to the shelter in time, so they were not harmed. Yulia Boyko will tell you more.
In broad daylight, the Russians launched 3 kamikaze drones one after another in the middle of Kharkiv. One of them directly hit a private facility. At the kindergarten, where up to 50 preschoolers were present at the time, the children managed to get to the shelter in time and were not harmed. However, there are injured adults. These are the first minutes after the strike. Horrifying footage shows frightened children being carried out of the burning kindergarten in rescuers' arms. The footage was released by rescuers and police from the State Emergency Service. At the time of the attack, there were 48 preschool children in the facility.
When we went down to the basement, it was filled with thick smoke, and rescuers and police had to make their way through the smoke to get the children out and bring them to safety. Evacuate them. They were in a state of shock. They were crying. Everyone carried the children in their arms to the ambulance.
Russian drones attacked Kharkiv around 11 a.m., eyewitnesses say. The explosions went off one after another. Debris was flying dozens of meters away.
We were at the conference, the glass shattered, the first explosion sounded, and then I decided to go out and check on the car. I went outside. Immediately there was a second explosion. I got hit a little by glass, but it's nothing.
A 40-year-old employee of the municipal company Shliakrembud, who was cleaning the street near the kindergarten, was fatally wounded. His colleagues, the utility workers who were on shift, and a woman who was sitting in a parked car at the moment of the strike were also injured. All the wounded have been hospitalized.
2 of them are in extremely serious condition. And according to our information, 1 more person has sought medical assistance.
Russian drones damaged shops, offices, and business premises on 2 streets. Several cars burned down, the windows of a municipal vehicle were shattered, and the contact network was severed. In the building where a kindergarten operated, the roof collapsed and several rooms were burned out.
The destruction is quite severe, including damage to the 2nd floor and the ceiling. Parts of the 1st floor premises were also damaged. In total, there were 3 fires inside, and the building of the children's educational institution itself burned over an area of 500 square meters.
According to preliminary information from law enforcement, Kharkiv was attacked by Geran-type drones with jet engines. At present, investigators are collecting debris to determine the drone modifications and their flight path. They will also check the activities of the kindergarten and whether all safety measures were observed there. Yulia Boyko, Toloksy Bugayenko, Kharkiv, TSN 1+1.
4 people were killed, 11 wounded, including a 10-year-old boy. The day before, the Russian army shelled the center of Novhorod-Siverskyi in the north of Chernihiv region. It was a massive attack using drones and multiple rocket launch systems. 1 private house burned down. Cars, schools, and apartments were damaged. In total, there were 20 strikes, one after another. A 2-day mourning period has been declared in the city for the victims. Novhorod-Siverskyi remains without electricity. Water supply disruptions are ongoing throughout the entire region. There are scheduled hourly power outages. Valentina Dobrota, who has just returned from Chernihiv region, will provide more details about the situation.
The center of Novhorod-Siverskyi is completely destroyed. They targeted civilians. They struck the hospital, the stadium, and the park. In the central park, the alley with portraits of fallen defenders of Ukraine has been damaged.
This is what was inside those cluster munitions. It tears right through solid concrete, and it pierces straight through without stopping. Thick, heavy metal. It even came out on this side, breaking through completely. The doors are just riddled with holes.
All the victims have shrapnel wounds. A 10-year-old boy with severe head and leg injuries was transported to the Chernihiv hospital and immediately taken to the operating table, says Valery Chubitko, the medical director of the regional hospital.
Several teams operated on him, including neurosurgeons and traumatologists. Therefore, as of today, a medical council was held. His condition remains critical, and he is in a medically induced coma.
Today, the child was transported to Kyiv. The other victims are being treated at their place of residence. During the massive attack on Novhorod-Siverskyi, the city lost power. Over the past month, the Chernihiv region has experienced a similar blackout for the second time. The situation in the north of Chernihiv region is more complicated, except for daily shelling of the border area and strikes on critical infrastructure. Novhorod-Siverskyi, Semenovka, Koryukivka. But the nearby villages are still without electricity, and water is supplied according to a schedule. Koryukivka has been without power for almost 3 days now. Water is supplied on a schedule using alternative sources. The same situation is in Semenivka, which is just 10 kilometers from the Russian border. You can warm up and charge your mobile phones at the points of invincibility. They have been set up throughout the entire region, says DSNS spokesperson Nina Lutsenko, and they operate around the clock. Next to them, just in case, there are field kitchens and water supplies.
Due to the constant power outages, the points of invincibility have been operating since the beginning of October. Currently, there are 40 points of invincibility run by the DSNS throughout the region. These include 34 stationary points based at DSNS units and 6 mobile ones. There are 11 points of invincibility operating in the city of Chernihiv.
In Chernihiv, electricity supply has been restored, but in addition to emergency outages, hourly schedules are also in effect. This elderly lady with a cane came down from her 8th floor, but she doesn't know how she'll get back up.
It's hard, but what can you do? The main thing for me is that nothing falls on my head. It's cold, unpleasant, and hard to get through, but what choice do we have? We'll get through it, I think. Where else can we go?
Residents of Chernihiv say that the voltage in the outlets is so low that household appliances automatically shut off in their apartments. The water pressure is also too weak. As a result, residents say that on the upper floors, the taps are dry.
Our whole building is electric. Without power, there's no water, no sewage, no work, nothing at all. We have a gas burner, so we manage to survive somehow. We live as we're used to. There's no order, the water doesn't rise, so it only reaches the 3rd floor, the neighbors say.
In Chernihiv, trolley buses are running on only 2 routes. The rest have finally been replaced by buses. All the city's schools are operating online. At the same time, kindergartens with shelters have reopened in the city.
It's very hard with 2 kids. Kindergartens also don't work when there's no electricity, and neither do schools, and nothing else does either. How can you work if there's no power? You can't prepare meals for 6 children.
Electricity supply in the region is gradually being restored, says Vyacheslav Chaus, head of the Chernihiv Regional Military Administration. But the enemy has struck many energy facilities.
When there's no electricity, everyone switches to alternative power sources. Do we need generators? Yes, as of today, we need backup generators in case the main generators installed on life support systems fail. They might break down, for example, or something else could happen to them. That's why we're working on creating such reserves, and once again we're receiving centralized assistance.
At the same time, mobile communication has already been almost fully restored in the region. In addition to local emergency crews, repair teams from Kyiv also helped with the restoration.
Railway tracks used by the occupiers to transport military cargo to the front, including weapons, were blown up. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the explosion occurred on one of the sections of the Pskov-St. Petersburg railway line. As a result of the explosion, a freight train also caught fire. Currently, train traffic on this section has been halted, which will negatively affect the supply of the enemy army. And in the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine, Special Operations Center of the Security Service of Ukraine destroyed 2 Russian light aircraft at the airfield, which they used to intercept our long-range drones. As noted by the security service, destroying such targets helps clear the skies for Ukrainian drones which strike enemy rear positions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones reached Trubchevsk in the Bryansk region. There, an electrical substation was attacked, according to Russian telegram channels. They are also reporting a large fire at the Smolensk thermal power plant, and the day before, Storm Shadow missiles struck the Bryansk chemical plant, which produces gunpowder, explosives, and fuel for the missiles that Russians use to shell Ukraine, according to the Ukrainian General Staff. Today, Ukrainian defense forces managed to regain positions near 2 settlements in the Dobropilya direction. However, at the same time, the enemy was able to fully occupy the village of Poltavka and to advance near 4 more settlements on the Oleksandrivka section of the front, where more than 2 weeks ago the Russians redeployed significant forces from the Pokrovsk area. This information comes from the analytical portal Deep State. The latest reports from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded 60 combat engagements along the entire front line. Since midnight, the fiercest fighting there has been reported on the Pokrovsk and Oleksandrivka sections. The enemy is also actively targeting Kostyantynivka and the Ukrainian Phoenix unit. A video was released showing his fighters destroying a column of Russian equipment that was heading toward the city and our positions to deploy their sabotage and reconnaissance groups. As a result, 30 Russians were eliminated and 3 vehicles, a quad bike, a T-62 tank, and electronic warfare equipment were also destroyed. Sweden will sell Ukraine about 150 latest model Gripen aircraft. This was announced by Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson during a joint press conference with Volodymyr Zelensky. This means great opportunities for the Ukrainian Air Force as well as for Sweden, our defense industry, and long-term industrial cooperation between Sweden and Ukraine. That is how the agreement was commented on. The Swedish Prime Minister emphasized that this is a clear mutual statement of intent and the beginning of a long journey for the next 10 to 15 years. Before Sweden, Zelensky also managed to visit another Scandinavian country, Norway. After meeting with local Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre, they agreed to allocate about $150 million to support the Ukrainian energy system. The officials also discussed the situation on the front line in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Jonas Gahr Støre stated that Norway stands in solidarity with Ukraine in its pursuit of lasting and just peace. Preparations for the meeting between the presidents of the United States and Russia have been suspended indefinitely. This was confirmed by Donald Trump himself, who added verbatim, "I don't want the meeting to be pointless." He took 2 days to think it over, after which he promised to announce his further plans. Sources in the Trump administration assure that even the first phone conversation this week between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Minister Sergei Lavrov showed that the Russians have not changed their demands and are not ready to make concessions. Therefore, the State Department has decided not to move forward with preparations for a presidential meeting for now. TSN's own correspondent in the United States, Olha Koshelenko, has more details.
The idea of holding a second bilateral meeting with Putin did not even last a week. Last Thursday, Trump spoke with the Russian leader by phone and announced that in about 2 weeks or so, they would meet in Budapest. A high-ranking White House official, who spoke to journalists on condition of anonymity, stated the day before that preparations for the summit have been suspended and that it should not be expected in the near future. Donald Trump essentially confirmed this, explaining, "Thank you." He doesn't want to waste time.
I don't want a pointless meeting. I don't want to waste time. So I'll see what happens. We've made all these wonderful peace agreements, arrangements, strong deals, but this one, I told them follow the front line, spread out along it, go home, and everyone get some rest, because 2 countries are killing each other. 2 countries are losing between 5,000 and 7,000 soldiers a week. So we'll see what happens. We haven't made a decision yet.
What changed your mind after your conversation with Vladimir Putin between then and now? Why do you think the summit in Budapest might be a waste of time?
I didn't say anything. I didn't say it would be like that. And you never know what will happen. But a lot is happening on the front between Ukraine and Russia. And we will announce within the next 2 days what we are going to do.
There won't be a high-level meeting yet because no understanding has been reached even at the lower levels. Secretary of State Blinken and Foreign Minister Lavrov spoke by phone on Monday, and it became clear that the meeting announced by the US President for this week is not possible. CNN reports that the conversation showed Russia's position has hardly changed since the meeting in Alaska, but the outlet does not rule out that the ministers may make another attempt to talk this week.
Although the United States called the speech productive, a source familiar with the matter told CNN that, as a result, officials were left with the impression that Russia's opposition had not evolved much beyond its maximalist position. And there was a sense that Rubio was unlikely to recommend moving forward with a Putin-Trump meeting next week.
Russian Minister Lavrov confirmed on Tuesday that they would not agree to a ceasefire, saying they want a substantive solution to address the root causes of the war. Reuters reports this, citing sources. After the phone conversation between Trump and Putin, the Russians handed the Americans an unofficial document containing the same conditions as before, specifically to hand over the entire Donbas to them without a fight and to prohibit NATO from deploying its forces in Ukraine even after the end of hostilities. Donald Trump himself did not publicly place the blame for the failed summit on anyone in particular. However, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, who spoke with the president, was critical of Russia.
I don't expect this to be adopted during the shutdown, but among House and Senate Republicans, I can tell you there is a strong appetite for tough sanctions against Russia. The president, as you know, and you can take his word for it, has lost patience with Putin. He is not a trustworthy actor. Obviously, he is the aggressor in an unjust war, and it needs to be brought to an end.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reiterated this in his address on Tuesday. He supports the latest publicly stated proposal by Donald Trump to freeze the current front line and start negotiations.
The front line could be the starting point for diplomacy. Instead, Russia is once again doing everything it can to back out of diplomacy. And as soon as the issue of long-range capabilities for us for Ukraine moved even a little further, Russia almost automatically became less interested in diplomacy. This is a signal that this very issue, the issue of long-range capabilities, may provide an indispensable key to peace. The more long-range capabilities Ukraine has, the more willing Russia becomes to end the war.
And against the backdrop of this news, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte urgently flew to Washington. He will meet with Donald Trump, according to the alliance. However, the meeting is to be closed to the press. From Washington, United States, Olha Koshelenko, Maxim Shenkarenko, TSN 1+1.
Well, while diplomacy is on pause, Putin has decided to return to his favorite pastime, rattling his sabers. The Kremlin dictator conducted a training exercise for the strategic nuclear forces via video link. The drill was supposedly scheduled, but it took place close to the United States. During the exercises, an intercontinental ballistic missile Yars was launched from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome towards the Kura test range in Kamchatka. In addition, from the waters of the Barents Sea, a Sineva ballistic missile was launched from the Bryansk nuclear submarine, and they practiced launching cruise missiles. At the Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation, certain tests conducted today were considered demonstrative. This is an information operation aimed at undermining the image of American President Trump. And this very much resembles the behavior of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, who has previously resorted to similar actions. According to the Center for Countering Disinformation, these demonstrative launches do not actually pose a real threat of Russia using nuclear weapons. They have already accounted for more than a dozen sunken Russian ships and attacks on the Crimean Bridge. We're talking about the Sea Baby naval drones of the Security Service of Ukraine, which are now capable of striking sea, air, and ground targets. The tasks on the maritime front are constantly changing, and the drones themselves are being improved as well. Now, Sea Baby is not just a kamikaze drone, but a multi-purpose platform that can be modified depending on the mission. It can be equipped with missiles, machine guns, or used as a carrier for FPV drones. Oksana Radionova will tell us what upgrades the Sea Baby maritime drones have received and how deadly they are for the enemy now.
Behind me, the legendary Sea Baby maritime drones are at work. These are the very ones that blew up the Crimean Bridge and destroyed more than a dozen enemy ships. And not only that, but these little guys are already of a new generation. One of them is equipped with a Grad multiple launch rocket system. It is capable of hitting targets on land at a distance of over 30 kilometers. People started talking about this unmanned maritime multiple launch rocket system on water last spring, after these drones successfully struck Russian positions on the Kinburn Spit. But this is the first time journalists are being shown this platform up close.
At the moment, this is the only heavy weaponry that Ukraine can use from the sea.
This is General Hunter, an experienced military counterintelligence officer of the Security Service of Ukraine, who is called the ideologist of Ukrainian naval drones. He says this craft is a real combat unit with many successful missions to its name. He explains the tactics to me. Equipped with launch rails for 122mm Grad Sea Baby rockets. They stealthily approach the necessary enemy military targets on the coast and strike them precisely from the sea.
There is a special ballistic system here that allows this drone to reach the designated area, raise the launcher to the appropriate angle, perform all ballistic calculations, and fire a salvo precisely at the area where the targets we need to destroy are located.
The first modifications had 5 rockets. Now the drone carries twice as many. Additionally, this platform is equipped with a special system that allows it to aim accurately and operate effectively even during rough seas. Last winter, these images were featured by all the world's media outlets. Here you can clearly see how, to the Russian surprise, Ukrainian naval drones engaged in combat with enemy helicopters, aircraft and Raptor boats that tried to intercept them. This is one of those drones. Its machine gun can reach targets at a distance of 2,000 meters.
A powerful machine gun gyro-stabilized turret system. It features a target auto-tracking system, target recognition, elements of artificial intelligence, and friend or foe identification to prevent us from shooting down our own drone. It is equipped with active drones that operate from a distance of over 15 kilometers.
The operator controlling the drones during combat can be anywhere on the planet or move around in a mobile command post like this.
The advantage of this particular mobile control station is that we can relocate to any location. We are not limited by distance at all. And another practice we use is that we can control and carry out missions, perform real-time tasks, even while on the move. There can be several such mobile groups, or there can be a central command center that assigns tasks, and we carry out our part.
Back in 2022, something like this seemed like science fiction. The effective and hard-working Sea Baby maritime drones of the Security Service of Ukraine have matured impressively. If at the beginning of the war, these were just kamikaze drones that could carry no more than 450 kilograms of explosives over a distance of no more than 1,000 kilometers, now it is a multi-purpose platform that can be adapted depending on the assigned task. To cover distances of over 1,500 kilometers and carry a combat payload of up to 2 tons.
We don't even position them as kamikaze anymore. These are multifunctional, reusable boats that go out and return home carrying some kind of payload, for example, turrets or other types of payloads. And likewise, they are faster, have better control and better communication.
In addition to the previously mentioned MLRs and machine guns, Sea Baby is also capable of mining the waters of the Black Sea. It was on its mines, in particular, that the hovercraft missile ship and the patrol ship Pavel Derzhavin were blown up. The most recent attack on the Crimean Bridge also did not happen without these drones.
Over 30%. The supports that are underwater are either destroyed or severely damaged. The Russians just stupidly dumped screenings, crushed stone, and other materials onto the bottom in that area, hoping that this platform will keep the bridge from collapsing for as long as possible.
Thanks to naval drones, Ukraine managed to change the course of the war. They shifted the balance of power in the Black Sea in our favor. They unblocked the grain corridor and also forced Russian ships to hide in other ports. And there's more to come, the developers assure.
An intelligent battle management system. That's what all the Baby Security Service of Ukraine units are. It's an evolution from ordinary fire ships, which resembled Cossack Chaikas, to highly advanced maritime platforms, the Cybeps, which you
see today, right now, at this moment.